You want me to sing? Then listen to this. Baby heartbeat plays. The ultrasound flashes on the big screen. The music stops. Everyone freezes. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. No one ever looks at the person holding the tray, Jasmine. That's why you hear all our secrets, Emily Thompson said, not bothering to look up from her phone as Jasmine poured her morning coffee. Jasmine Williams kept her face carefully neutral, the way she had practiced for 3 years working in this Upper East Side Manhattan mansion. At 25 years old, she had mastered the art of being present yet invisible to the Thompson family. "I don't notice any secrets, Miss Emily," Jasmine replied softly, setting down the silver cream pitcher. "Oh, please," Emily laughed, finally looking up. "You probably know more about this family than our therapists, not that it matters." The kitchen of the Thompson home gleamed with expensive marble and stainless steel appliances. Jasmine had been awake since 5:30 in the morning, preparing an elaborate breakfast spread that Emily would barely touch. The smell of freshly baked croissants filled the air as Mr. Thompson entered, his attention fixed on his tablet. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," Jasmine said, immediately pouring his coffee, black with 2 sugars, stirred exactly 3 times. He nodded without looking at her. "Is that the engagement announcement in the Times?" he asked Emily, taking the newspaper Jasmine offered. "Yes, Daddy. The Bennett family insisted on it. Richard says it's tradition." Emily rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her pleased smile. Jasmine silently refilled water glasses as Mrs. Thompson arrived, already dressed for her charity committee meeting. Her perfume, something French and expensive, announced her presence before she did. "Jasmine, you've pressed my blue Chanel suit for today, correct?" Mrs. Thompson asked, inspecting the fruit plate with critical eyes. "Yes, ma'am. It's hanging in your dressing room with the pearl earrings you requested." Mrs. Thompson nodded distractedly. "Emily, darling, have you confirmed the date with the plaza? Richard's mother called me yesterday, quite concerned about the timeline." Emily sighed dramatically. "Mother, can I at least finish my coffee before wedding talk begins? It's 7:15 in the morning." Jasmine faded back against the kitchen wall, observing the family dynamic she knew so well. Mr. Thompson, the stern investment banker who made millions moving money around but couldn't remember his daughter's birthday without Jasmine's reminder. Mrs. Thompson, the socialite whose calendar of charity events served more to elevate her social standing than to help actual causes. And Emily, 28 years old and newly engaged to Richard Bennett from one of Boston's wealthiest families. "Jasmine," Mr. Thompson called suddenly, "I need you to pick up my new suits from Brooks Brothers this afternoon." "Yes, sir," Jasmine replied. "Would you like me to do that before or after I help Miss Emily with her wedding vendor list?" Emily groaned. "God, the florist is being impossible. She claims she can't get white peonies in that quantity." "Perhaps you could consider garden roses instead," Jasmine suggested quietly. "They would complement the color scheme you selected." Emily looked at Jasmine as if seeing her for the first time that morning. "I suppose that's not terrible advice. Add it to the list of things to discuss with her." As the family finished breakfast, Jasmine began clearing plates. Emily knocked over her coffee cup, sending dark liquid across the white tablecloth and onto the floor. "Oops," Emily said with a laugh, not bothering to help as Jasmine quickly grabbed a cloth. "No problem, Miss Emily," Jasmine said, kneeling to wipe the spill. "While you're down there," Emily said, "my Christian Louboutins need to be taken for repair. The heel is slightly scuffed." From her position on the floor, Jasmine looked up at the family seated around the table, all engaged with their phones now, none acknowledging her presence as she cleaned up the mess. "I'll take care of it today," she said to no one in particular. After the family dispersed to their various activities, Jasmine retreated to her room, a small but private space in the back corner of the apartment. She had 15 minutes before she needed to start laundry. She pulled out her nursing textbook from beneath her bed and reviewed her notes from last night's class at City College. The schedule was grueling. working full-time for the Thompsons while attending night classes, but Jasmine was determined. After her father died when she was 16, leaving her mother struggling in Baltimore with a younger brother to raise, Jasmine had promised herself she would get an education. Nursing was her dream, a way to help others while securing a stable future. Her phone buzzed with a text from Taylor. "Still on for coffee Sunday? You can vent about the princess and her royal wedding." Jasmine smiled. Taylor was her best friend, a bartender at high-end Manhattan events who understood the strange world of serving the ultra-wealthy. "Absolutely. Need to survive Richard's visit today first," she texted back. At 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Richard Bennett stood in the hallway, his expensive cologne arriving before his greeting did. "Jasmine, right? Emily mentioned you'd be here," he said, handing her his cashmere coat without making eye contact. "Yes, Mr. Bennett. Miss Emily is expecting you in the living room. May I get you something to drink?" Richard finally looked at her properly, his eyes lingering a moment too long. "Scotch, neat. The good stuff Mr. Thompson keeps for guests, not the decanter he leaves out." Jasmine nodded. "Of course, sir." As she prepared his drink in the kitchen, she could hear Emily's excited chatter about wedding plans. The wedding at the Plaza Hotel was scheduled for June, just 6 months away. From what Jasmine had overheard, it would cost more than $2 million. When she delivered the scotch, Richard's fingers brushed against hers deliberately. "Thank you, Jasmine. You know, Emily tells me you're studying to be a nurse. Admirable. Someone from your background pushing for education." "That's correct, sir," Jasmine replied, withdrawing her hand quickly. "Must be difficult balancing work and school," he continued, watching her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "Especially with all these wedding preparations about to consume everyone's time." Emily cut in, "Richard, stop bothering the help. We need to decide on the guest list today." Richard smiled at Jasmine in a way that seemed both apologetic and predatory. "Of course, darling, just making conversation." Later that evening, after finishing her duties and missing her evening class to help with wedding preparations, Jasmine took out the trash to the building's service area. As she pushed through the door, she nearly collided with a tall man in a security uniform. "Whoa, careful there," he said, steadying her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry," Jasmine said, embarrassed. "I didn't see you." "No harm done. I'm Marcus Jackson, new night security." His smile was warm, his eyes kind. "And you must be Jasmine. The doorman mentioned you work for the Thompsons." "That's me," she said, returning his smile. "Been here 3 years now." Marcus nodded toward her textbook peeking out of her bag. "Student too, huh? What are you studying?" "Nursing," Jasmine replied, surprised by his interest. "At City College." "My sister's a nurse at Mount Sinai. Tough program, but worth it," he said. "You look exhausted, though. Rough day?" Jasmine hesitated, unused to someone actually seeing her fatigue. "Wedding planning has officially taken over the household. Miss Emily got engaged to Richard Bennett." "Ah, one of those society weddings the papers love," Marcus said. "Need a coffee?" "I just made a fresh pot in the security office." Before Jasmine could answer, her phone rang. It was Emily. "Jasmine, where are you? Mother just told me the wedding will be at the plaza, and we need to start planning the seating chart tonight. I expect you upstairs in 5 minutes." "Yes, Miss Emily, I'll be right there," Jasmine said, ending the call with a sigh. "Rain check on that coffee?" Marcus offered. "I'd like that," Jasmine replied. "Thanks for actually seeing me." As she headed back upstairs, Jasmine mentally calculated how many extra hours the wedding preparations would add to her already full schedule, and whether her tuition savings would suffer as a result. What she didn't calculate was how Richard Bennett's lingering gaze would become a fixture in her life, or how it would change everything. Jasmine deleted the mysterious text message and placed her phone on the nightstand. After a restless night filled with wedding preparations and strange texts, she was looking forward to a rare weekend of solitude. For the first time in months, the Thompson residence would be empty. Emily had left for Paris 3 days ago for a fashion internship, and Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were spending the weekend at their Hamptons house. Finally, Jasmine whispered to herself as she got out of bed on Saturday morning. The clock showed 6:15, but she allowed herself the luxury of stretching before rising. Her body had automatically woken at her usual time, but today there were no breakfast trays to prepare, no uniforms to press, no demanding voices calling her name. Jasmine walked through the silent apartment, running her fingers along the expensive furniture. The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the Manhattan skyline. She made herself a cup of coffee in the kitchen, using the special beans Mrs. Thompson reserved for guests, and played her own music through the apartment speakers. "This is what freedom feels like," she said to the empty room, allowing herself a small dance as she prepared a simple breakfast for herself. With the family gone, Jasmine had planned to catch up on her nursing school assignments and deep clean some areas of the apartment that needed attention. But first, she would enjoy this rare moment of having the luxurious space to herself. She was folding laundry in the living room, singing along to her music, when the doorbell rang at 6:30 in the evening. Jasmine froze. No one was expected, and deliveries always came through the service entrance. She turned down the music and approached the intercom. "Thompson Residence," she answered professionally. "It's Richard Bennett. I need to pick up some documents for Mr. Thompson." Jasmine's stomach tightened. "Mr. Thompson didn't mention anything about documents, Mr. Bennett. It was a last-minute request. He called me an hour ago. I was in the neighborhood, so I offered to stop by." His voice sounded casual, but something about it made Jasmine uncomfortable. "I'll be right down," she said. In the elevator, Jasmine smoothed her t-shirt and jeans. She wasn't in her usual uniform, and she felt strangely exposed. She considered changing quickly, but didn't want to keep Richard waiting in the lobby. Richard stood chatting with the doorman when Jasmine arrived. He wore expensive casual clothes, a blue button-down shirt and designer jeans that probably cost more than her monthly salary. "Jasmine," he said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Sorry to interrupt your evening." "It's no problem, Mr. Bennett. What documents do you need?" "Some contracts for the Bennett-Thompson development project. Robert said they're in his office safe." Jasmine nodded, though Mr. Thompson had told her nothing about this. "Please follow me." In the elevator, Richard stood closer than necessary. "So this is what you look like when you're not in uniform," he said, looking her up and down. "I almost didn't recognize you." Jasmine pressed herself against the elevator wall. "Mr. Thompson's office is this way," she said when they reached the apartment, walking briskly ahead. In the office, Jasmine hesitated. "I don't have the combination to the safe, Mr. Bennett." Richard pulled out his phone. "Robert texted it to me. Let me find it." He scrolled through his messages while Jasmine stood awkwardly by the door. "Here it is," he said, approaching the safe. As he entered the combination, Jasmine noticed a silver flask in his back pocket. The safe opened, and Richard rifled through the documents inside. "Mind if I have a drink while I look through these?" he asked, already pulling out his flask. "There's water in the kitchen, Mr. Bennett." "This is stronger than water," he said with a wink. "Don't worry, I won't tell if you won't." Jasmine remained by the door as Richard took a long drink from his flask. He pulled out several folders, flipping through them carelessly. "Would you like me to wait in the kitchen while you review those, Mr. Bennett?" "No need to be so formal, Jasmine. We're practically family now with the wedding. Call me Richard." He took another drink. "Actually, could you help me look? I'm not sure exactly which document he needs." Reluctantly, Jasmine approached the desk. As she leaned forward to look at the papers, she felt Richard's hand on her lower back. "Mr. Bennett, please don't do that," she said firmly, stepping away. "Do what?" he asked innocently, but his eyes had a different message. "I'm just being friendly." For the next 20 minutes, Richard continued looking through papers, asking Jasmine unnecessary questions, finding reasons to stand too close. Each time she moved away, He found another excuse to approach her. "I should check these in the living room," Richard announced, gathering some documents. "Better light in there." In the living room, Richard sat on the couch and spread papers around him. "Join me, Jasmine. I could use your help organizing these." "I should finish the laundry, Mr. Bennett." "The laundry can wait. Emily tells me you're smart. I need smart eyes on these." His speech was slightly slurred now, the flask having been emptied and refilled from Mr. Thompson's liquor cabinet. Jasmine sat on the farthest end of the couch, keeping as much distance as possible. Richard immediately slid closer. "What's a pretty girl like you doing working as a maid anyway?" he asked, his hand suddenly on her knee. Jasmine stood up abruptly. "Mr. Bennett, I think you should leave now." Richard's face hardened. "I'm not done with the documents. I'll tell Mr. Thompson you stopped by. He can contact you directly about whatever he needs." Richard stood, towering over her. "You're being very rude, Jasmine. I'm your employer's future son-in-law." "Please leave or I'll call building security," Jasmine said, her voice shaking slightly. Richard's charming facade disappeared completely. "You think security will believe you over me? Do you know who I am?" He grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her skin. Jasmine tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Let go of me," she demanded, fear rising in her throat. "You've been teasing me all evening," he hissed, his face close to hers now. "I haven't. Please stop." Jasmine tried to twist away, heading toward her room. Richard followed, blocking her path to the door. "No one would believe you anyway. The help always tries to seduce the wealthy men. Everyone knows that story." What happened next unfolded in a terrifying blur. Richard cornered Jasmine against the wall, ignoring her protests and pleas. His hands were everywhere, his body pressing against hers, his alcohol-soured breath on her face. Despite her struggles and repeated "no," Richard's entitlement and strength overpowered her resistance. "If you tell anyone about this, you'll lose your job," he threatened afterward, fixing his clothes. "And that cousin of yours from Haiti? The one without proper papers? I have friends in immigration." Jasmine slid down the wall, pulling her torn shirt around herself. "Get out," she whispered. "This never happened," Richard said, suddenly businesslike. "I was never here." He gathered the documents he'd scattered and left without looking back. When the front door closed, Jasmine dragged herself to the bathroom. She turned the shower as hot as she could stand and stood under the scalding water, scrubbing her skin until it was raw. Tears mixed with the water as she tried to wash away what had just happened. Her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. Should she call the police? Would anyone believe her? What about her job, her education, her family depending on her income? What about her cousin who Richard had threatened? Jasmine showered a second time, then a third, before wrapping herself in a towel and sitting on her bed, shaking. She picked up her phone several times to call Taylor or the police, but each time she put it down again. By morning, Jasmine had made her decision. She couldn't risk losing everything she'd worked for. She hid her torn clothes in a garbage bag, applied makeup to cover the bruises forming on her arms, and forced herself to continue with her weekend tasks. When the Thompsons returned on Sunday evening, Mrs. Thompson complained about the beach traffic while Mr. Thompson asked about any calls he'd missed. Neither noticed Jasmine's reddened eyes or how she flinched when Mr. Thompson moved too quickly near her. "Did Richard stop by for those documents?" Mr. Thompson asked casually. Jasmine froze. "What documents, sir?" Mr. Thompson looked confused. "I didn't ask for any documents. Why would Richard come here?" "He didn't," Jasmine said quickly. "I was just confused by your question." The weeks that followed passed in a fog of anxiety and fear. Jasmine avoided Richard whenever he visited the Thompson home, and he pretended not to notice her at all. She threw herself into work and studies, trying to forget what had happened. But 2 months later, as Jasmine cleaned the guest bathroom, a wave of nausea hit her suddenly. She barely made it to the toilet before vomiting. This was the third morning this week she'd felt sick. That afternoon, she stopped at a pharmacy far from the Thompsons' neighborhood. In the store's bathroom, Jasmine stared at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands, watching as 2 pink lines appeared. "What am I going to do now?" she whispered, her hand moving instinctively to her stomach. Jasmine crumpled the pregnancy test in her hand and threw it deep into the pharmacy bathroom trash. The reality of her situation hit her like a physical blow. Pregnant. With Richard Bennett's baby, the result of an assault she had told no one about. She splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection in the mirror. "Get it together," she whispered to herself. "You need to think clearly now." The next morning, Jasmine woke up at 5:30 as usual, but instead of getting out of bed immediately, a wave of nausea kept her pinned in place. She breathed deeply, willing her stomach to settle. By 5:45, she couldn't wait any longer and rushed to the bathroom, barely making it before throwing up. "Jasmine, are you in there?" Mrs. Thompson's voice came through the door. The coffee should have been started 15 minutes ago. Jasmine flushed the toilet quickly. "Yes, Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry, I'll be right out." "Are you ill?" Mrs. Thompson asked, her voice more concerned about potential germs than Jasmine's well-being. "No, ma'am, just something I ate last night, I think." Jasmine rinsed her mouth and opened the door. Mrs. Thompson stepped back. "Well, please use the staff bathroom in the future. And do hurry with breakfast. Mr. Thompson has an early meeting." In the kitchen, the smell of coffee brewing made Jasmine's stomach turn again. She managed to prepare the Thompson family breakfast while breathing through her mouth. "The eggs are overcooked," Emily complained, pushing her plate away. "And where's the fresh squeezed orange juice?" "I'm sorry, Miss Emily. I'll make new eggs right away," Jasmine said, taking the plate. Mrs. Thompson studied Jasmine's face. "You look pale. I hope you're not coming down with something. The wedding planning starts in earnest next week, and we can't afford any delays." "I'm fine, Mrs. Thompson," Jasmine assured her, though she felt anything but fine. Later that evening, Jasmine sat in her nursing class at City College, struggling to focus on Dr. Martinez's lecture about pediatric care. The irony wasn't lost on her. Learning about caring for children while an unwanted pregnancy grew inside her. "Ms. Williams," Dr. Martinez called, startling Jasmine from her thoughts. "Can you explain the differences in vital signs between infants and adults?" Jasmine stared blankly at her professor. She had always been prepared for class, always had the answer, but now her mind was empty. I'm sorry, Dr. Martinez. I don't know." After class, Dr. Martinez asked Jasmine to stay behind. The professor was a kind woman in her 50s with a reputation for being tough but fair. "Jasmine, is everything all right? You've missed 2 classes this month and your last paper wasn't up to your usual standards." Jasmine gripped her textbook tightly. "I've just been busy with work. The family I work for has a wedding coming up." Dr. Martinez didn't look convinced. "You've balanced work and school successfully for 2 years. What's changed?" "Nothing. I'll do better," Jasmine promised, avoiding eye contact. "You know you can talk to me if you need help, right? There are resources available for students in difficult situations." "Thank you, but I'm fine," Jasmine said, gathering her things quickly. "I need to go or I'll miss my train." The next morning, after another bout of morning sickness, Jasmine made a decision. She had to confront Richard. She found his office address online. Bennett Real Estate Headquarters in downtown Manhattan. At 4:30 that afternoon, she stood across the street from the gleaming skyscraper where Richard worked. She had told Mrs. Thompson she needed to pick up a prescription, buying herself 1 hour of freedom. Jasmine watched the entrance, her heart pounding. Just as she was losing her nerve, Richard emerged from the revolving doors, laughing with 2 other men in expensive suits. She waited until he separated from his colleagues before approaching him. "Richard." He turned, his smile vanishing when he recognized her. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk. Privately." Richard looked around nervously. "This is inappropriate. If Emily finds out you're stalking me." "I'm pregnant," Jasmine interrupted, her voice low but firm. Richard's face hardened. "Not here." He grabbed her elbow and steered her toward a small park across the street. Once they were away from passers-by, Richard released her arm. "What kind of game are you playing?" "This isn't a game. I'm pregnant. From when you—" She couldn't bring herself to say the word. "From when we had sex, you mean?" Richard's voice was cold. "I remember a very different evening than whatever you're implying." "You assaulted me," Jasmine said, her hand shaking with anger. "And now I'm pregnant." Richard laughed, the sound chilling. "Prove it's mine." "Who else would it be? How would I know? Maybe you're sleeping with the doorman. Or maybe this is just a sad attempt to extort money from my family before my wedding." Jasmine felt sick again, but not from morning sickness. "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" "I want you to take responsibility." Richard stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Listen carefully. If you go public with these ridiculous claims, my family's lawyers will destroy you. They'll dig into every aspect of your life. They'll question every man you've ever known. They'll paint you as a gold digger targeting a wealthy man before his wedding." He paused, watching fear cross her face. "Or I can help you take care of this little problem. $5,000 for an abortion. That's my only offer." "I'm not terminating this pregnancy for your convenience," Jasmine said, stepping back. "Then you're on your own." Richard straightened his tie. "And remember, no one will believe the help over me." He walked away, leaving Jasmine standing alone in the park. That evening, Jasmine met Taylor at a small diner far from the Thompsons' neighborhood. Taylor worked as a bartender at high-end Manhattan events and understood the world of wealthy employers better than most. "You need to report him to the police," Taylor said after Jasmine told her everything. "And tell them what? That the son of a former judge assaulted me with no witnesses? That I waited months to report it? That I'm pregnant and have no proof it's his?" Jasmine pushed her untouched food around her plate. "You know how these cases go. So you'll just let him get away with it? What choice do I have? I need this job. I need my education. My mom and brother depend on the money I send home." Taylor reached across the table and squeezed Jasmine's hand. "You always have choices. They might be hard ones, but they exist." When Jasmine returned to the Thompson building that night, Marcus was on duty in the lobby. She had avoided him since discovering her pregnancy, afraid he would see through her carefully constructed facade. "Jasmine," he called as she headed for the elevator. "Wait up." He approached with a paper cup in his hand. "You look like you could use this." Jasmine took the cup cautiously. "What is it?" "Ginger tea. My sister swore by it when she was pregnant. Helped with her morning sickness." Jasmine nearly dropped the cup. "I'm not—" "It's okay," Marcus said gently. "I'm not going to tell anyone. But if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." Tears filled Jasmine's eyes. "How did you know?" "I notice things. It's part of my job." He hesitated. "And I've seen how that Bennett guy looks at you when he visits. How you avoid being alone with him." Jasmine took a sip of the tea, the warmth and simple kindness of the gesture nearly breaking her composure. "Thank you," she whispered. "Whatever you decide to do, I'm on your side," Marcus said. "Just remember that." The elevator doors opened, and Jasmine stepped inside, clutching the tea. For the first time in months, she felt less alone. Upstairs, Emily was waiting with a massive wedding binder. "There you are. Mother says we need to finalize the floral arrangements tonight. The wedding planner needs answers by tomorrow." Jasmine set down the tea and her bag. "Yes, Miss Emily." "What's wrong with you lately?" "You look terrible," Emily said, not waiting for an answer. "Anyway, Richard's parents are hosting a pre-wedding party next week, and I need you to prepare my outfits. Richard specifically requested that blue dress he likes." At the mention of Richard's name, Jasmine felt her stomach turn again. As Emily continued talking about wedding details, Jasmine discreetly researched prenatal vitamins on her phone. She would need to visit a clinic soon, somewhere far from the Upper East Side where no one would recognize her. The weeks ahead looked impossible. hiding her pregnancy from the Thompsons, facing Richard at wedding events, salvaging her failing grades, and preparing for a baby she never planned to have. But as she listened to Emily complain about trivial wedding problems, Jasmine made a silent promise to her unborn child. "Whatever happens, I will protect you." Her phone buzzed with a text from Richard. "Meet me tomorrow. We need to solve our problem once and for all." Jasmine stared at Richard's text message for a long time before responding with a simple, "When and where?" She wouldn't ignore him. That would only make things worse. Better to face whatever he was planning. The next morning, her uniform felt noticeably tighter. At 12 weeks pregnant, her body was beginning to change in ways she couldn't hide much longer. She placed her hand briefly on her stomach before heading to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. "Jasmine, there you are," Mrs. Thompson said, entering the kitchen in her silk robe. "Emily tells me you've been quite forgetful lately. The wedding is only 6 weeks away. We can't afford any mistakes." "Yes, Mrs. Thompson, I understand." Mrs. Thompson opened the refrigerator, frowning. "You look different. Have you gained weight?" Jasmine busied herself with the coffee maker. "Perhaps a little, ma'am." "Well, do try to watch that. The wedding photos will include the staff, and Emily wants everything perfect." Mrs. Thompson studied Jasmine more closely. "Are you feeling well? You're rather pale." "I'm fine, thank you for asking." Mrs. Thompson looked unconvinced but moved on. "Richard will be stopping by this afternoon to discuss the seating arrangements with Emily. Make sure the living room is presentable." Jasmine's hands trembled slightly as she poured coffee. "Yes, ma'am." That afternoon, Jasmine was folding linens in the laundry room when the door opened. Richard stood there, closing the door behind him. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low. Jasmine stepped back until she hit the washing machine. "This isn't the place." "It's the only place where Emily won't interrupt." Richard's expensive suit and carefully styled hair contrasted with the utilitarian laundry room. "I've reconsidered my offer. I already told you—" $10,000, Richard interrupted. "Cash, enough to cover your tuition and then some. All you have to do is leave town immediately after the wedding." Jasmine's mind raced. $10,000 would indeed cover her tuition, with money left over to send to her family. But it would mean abandoning her dignity, letting Richard off without consequences. "What about my baby?" she asked quietly. "That's your choice, but it won't be my problem." Richard pulled an envelope from his inside pocket. $5,000 now, $5,000 after you leave. No one needs to know why you're going." When Jasmine didn't reach for the envelope, Richard's expression hardened. "Don't be stupid, Jasmine. This is your best option." "My best option would have been for you to never enter this house that night," she said, her voice stronger than she expected. Richard's face flushed with anger. "Be very careful. I'm being generous. If you push me, I can make things much worse for you." "How? Do you think the Thompsons will keep you once they learn you're pregnant? And if you try to connect my name to your situation, I'll make sure you never work in New York again. My family has contacts in every major hospital system. Your nursing career would be over before it began." The threat hung in the air between them. Before Jasmine could respond, Emily's voice called from the hallway. "Richard? Where are you?" Richard quickly tucked the envelope away. "Think about it," he whispered before opening the door. "Emily, darling, I was just asking Jasmine about those tablecloths we discussed." Later that evening, Jasmine sat in Dr. Martinez's office at City College. Her nursing professor had asked her to stay after class to discuss her failing grade on the midterm exam. "Jasmine, what's going on?" Dr. Martinez asked. "You've always been one of my strongest students. I'm sorry about the exam. I've been very busy with my employer's daughter's wedding preparations." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "This goes beyond one exam. You've missed 3 classes this month. Your last assignment was incomplete. This isn't like you." Jasmine stared at her hands, fighting back tears. "Is there something preventing you from focusing on your studies?" Dr. Martinez pressed gently. Something I should know about? I'm pregnant, Jasmine said suddenly, the words escaping before she could stop them. Dr. Martinez's expression softened. I see. And I'm guessing this wasn't planned? Jasmine shook her head, tears now flowing freely. Does the father know? Yes. Jasmine wiped her eyes. He wants nothing to do with it, unless I agree to his terms. Dr. Martinez handed Jasmine a tissue. Jasmine, there are resources available for students in your situation. Extensions on assignments, counseling services. I can't go to counseling, Jasmine interrupted. If my employers find out I'm pregnant, I'll lose my job. I live with them. I'd have nowhere to go. The father of your child? Is he one of your employers? Jasmine looked up, surprised. Well, not exactly. He's engaged to their daughter. Dr. Martinez's eyes widened slightly, but her voice remained calm. That does complicate things. The wedding is in 6 weeks. I don't know what to do. First, let's focus on your education. I can give you an incomplete for this course rather than a failing grade. That will give you time to make up the work. Dr. Martinez made a note in her file. As for your personal situation, that's a decision only you can make. But know that whatever you decide, your education can continue. 2 days later, Jasmine met Taylor at a coffee shop several blocks from the Thompson residence. Taylor had brought her cousin Sophia, a paralegal at a women's legal advocacy center. Jasmine, this is Sophia, Taylor said. She can explain your options better than I can. Sophia was a confident woman in her early 30s with a kind smile. Taylor told me the basics of your situation. I want you to know that what happened wasn't your fault. It feels like it was, Jasmine admitted. I let him into the apartment. That doesn't give anyone the right to assault you, Sophia said firmly. Now let's talk about your options. For the next hour, Sophia outlined possible paths forward, reporting the assault to police, pursuing a civil case, or seeking a private settlement. She was honest about the challenges of each approach. The reality is that cases like yours are difficult to prove in court, Sophia explained, especially given the time that's passed and the power imbalance between you and the Bennett family. But that doesn't mean you don't have options. What about the baby? Jasmine asked. You could pursue child support through family court. A paternity test would establish Richard as the father. Sophia paused. But be prepared for a fight. Men like Richard Bennett don't accept responsibility easily. As Jasmine walked back to the Thompson building, she felt overwhelmed by decisions that all seemed impossible. When she entered the lobby, Marcus was at the security desk. Rough day? He asked, noting her expression. You could say that. Marcus looked around to make sure no one was within earshot. Want to talk about it? My shift ends in 15 minutes. There's a bench in the back garden no one uses. 15 minutes later, they sat on a stone bench in the small garden behind the building. Jasmine told Marcus about Richard's increased offer and threats. $10,000, Marcus repeated. That's what he thinks your silence is worth. It would cover my tuition, Jasmine said quietly. But at what cost to you? Marcus looked directly at her. Listen, I had a situation at my last job. My supervisor was stealing from the company and wanted me to cover for him. He offered me money too. What did you do? I reported him. I lost that job. His friends made sure of that. But I kept my self-respect. Marcus paused. I'm not saying that's what you should do. Your situation is different, more personal. But don't let fear be the only thing guiding your decision. I'm afraid all the time now, Jasmine admitted. Afraid of losing my job, my education, my future. Afraid of raising a child alone. You're not alone, Marcus said simply. Whatever you decide, I'm here. His words stayed with Jasmine as she returned to the Thompson apartment, where chaos reigned. Florists, caterers, and wedding planners filled the living room, all talking over each other while Emily sat in the center, overwhelmed. Jasmine, there you are, Emily called. Mother says you need to help me try on my wedding dress tomorrow. And don't bring your depressing mood with you. That night, as Jasmine lay in bed, she researched Richard's family on her phone. The Bennett family had connections everywhere: politics, hospitals, real estate, media. They had successfully silenced scandals before, including a drunk driving incident involving Richard in college that mysteriously disappeared from court records. Her phone buzzed with a text from Richard. "Have you made your decision? The offer expires tomorrow." Jasmine placed her phone on the nightstand without responding and rested her hand on her slightly rounded stomach. For the first time, she felt a fluttering movement inside, her baby making its presence known. The sensation was both terrifying and miraculous. In that moment, something shifted in Jasmine's mind. This baby deserved better than a life built on silence and shame. "We'll find a way," she whispered to her unborn child. "Together." "You look absolutely ridiculous," Emily said, circling Jasmine like a fashion critic. "The uniform is pulling across your stomach. Have you really gained that much weight in a month?" Jasmine stood uncomfortably in the staff room, wearing the formal black and white uniform that the household staff would wear at the wedding. The buttons strained across her growing baby bump, now clearly visible at 16 weeks pregnant. "I'm sorry, Miss Emily. Perhaps we could order the next size up." Emily rolled her eyes. "There's no time for that. The wedding is in 4 weeks. Why couldn't you control your eating habits until after my special day?" Mrs. Thompson entered the room, coffee cup in hand. "Oh dear, that won't do at all." She studied Jasmine with disapproval. "You'll need to wear a girdle or something underneath. We can't have you looking puffy in the wedding photos." "Yes, Mrs. Thompson," Jasmine replied quietly, knowing no girdle would disguise her pregnancy much longer. "Mother, tell the seamstress to let out the seams as much as possible," Emily said. "Jasmine, you're dismissed. Try not to eat any more donuts before the wedding." As soon as they left, Jasmine rushed to the staff bathroom. The harsh fluorescent lights highlighted the dark circles under her eyes. She unbuttoned the uniform jacket, giving her stomach room to breathe, and sat down on the closed toilet lid, finally letting the tears flow. A soft knock on the door startled her. "Jasmine? Are you in there?" Marcus's voice was concerned. "How did you get up here?" she asked through the door. "Mrs. Thompson called security about a package delivery. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she lied, her voice cracking. "Can I do anything to help?" The simple kindness in his question broke something in Jasmine. She opened the door, her face streaked with tears. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. Marcus looked around quickly, making sure no one else was nearby. "Let's talk somewhere private." They slipped into the service stairwell, rarely used by the family. Jasmine sat on the steps, still wearing the half-buttoned uniform. "It's Richard Bennett's baby," she said suddenly. "He assaulted me when the family was away. Now he's offering me money to disappear after the wedding." Marcus's expression shifted from shock to anger to concern. "Have you reported him?" Jasmine shook her head. "Who would believe me? He's Richard Bennett. I'm the maid." "I believe you," Marcus said firmly. "It doesn't matter. He's threatened to destroy my career before it even starts. His family knows everyone in New York." Marcus sat beside her. "My sister Vanessa works with women in situations like yours. She could help you understand your options better than I can." "Does she work for the police?" "No. She's a social worker at a center for assault survivors. She knows how to navigate these situations." Marcus hesitated. "She helped me understand what happened to me too." Jasmine looked up, surprised. "You?" "My college baseball coach. I was 19. Marcus spoke matter-of-factly. "I never reported it officially, but talking to Vanessa helped me make peace with my decisions." Jasmine felt a wall inside her crumble. All these weeks, she'd carried her secret alone, believing no one could understand. "I'd like to meet her," she said finally. Later that week, the Thompson home buzzed with activity as they hosted a pre-wedding cocktail party. Caterers moved efficiently through the kitchen while florists arranged elaborate centerpieces in the dining room. Jasmine worked alongside them, invisible as always despite her growing belly. As she arranged dessert plates in the butler's pantry, the door suddenly closed behind her. Richard stood there, blocking the exit. "You're showing," he said coldly. "Emily mentioned you've gained weight. I should have guessed." Jasmine placed a hand protectively over her stomach. "What do you want?" "I'm raising my offer. $25,000. His voice was businesslike. "More than enough to start over somewhere new. Terminate the pregnancy, take the money, and leave New York after the wedding." "I've already told you my answer." Richard stepped closer. "Don't be stupid, Jasmine. Do you really think you can raise a child on a maid's salary? Do you think any respectable hospital will hire you once I'm done talking to my contacts? Are you threatening me again? I'm explaining reality." Richard's smile was cold. "But if you want to play hardball, I can make things much worse. How's your mother doing? Still working at that Baltimore hospital? It would be a shame if she lost her job during these difficult economic times." Jasmine felt her blood run cold. "Stay away from my family." "That's entirely up to you." Richard checked his watch. "I need to get back to my guests. Think about my offer. $25,000 is life-changing money for someone like you." After he left, Jasmine leaned against the counter, shaking with anger and fear. But beneath those emotions was something new: determination. That evening, after the party ended, Jasmine was cleaning the guest bathroom when she noticed Richard's monogrammed hairbrush on the counter. He had used this bathroom to freshen up before the party. Without hesitating, she wrapped the brush in a tissue and slipped it into her pocket. The next morning, Jasmine took a rare personal day, claiming a doctor's appointment. Instead, she visited a DNA testing facility in Brooklyn, far from anyone who might recognize her. "I need a paternity test," she told the receptionist. "I have a sample from the potential father." "We can do that, but without his consent, the results won't be admissible in court," the receptionist explained. "I understand. This is just for my information right now." Jasmine paid in cash for the expedited service, using money she'd been saving for textbooks. When she returned to the Thompson residence, Emily was waiting in the kitchen. "Where have you been? I've been calling you for hours." "I had a doctor's appointment, Miss Emily. I left a note with your mother." Emily waved dismissively. "Whatever. Listen, I've had the most brilliant idea for the wedding reception. You're going to sing." "What?" Jasmine nearly dropped the glass she was holding. "Taylor mentioned you used to sing in your church choir. We need something unique for the entertainment portion. Everyone has string quartets and jazz bands." Emily clapped her hands excitedly. "It's perfect. You can sing while the guests are having dessert." "Miss Emily, I haven't sung publicly in years. I don't think—" "It's decided. Pick something appropriate, nothing too religious or, urban." Emily turned to leave, then added, "Oh, and wear something that fits. Your uniform situation is becoming embarrassing." 2 days later, Jasmine met Marcus's sister Vanessa at a community center in Brooklyn. Vanessa was a warm, confident woman with the same kind eyes as her brother. "Marcus told me a little about your situation," Vanessa said after they sat down in a private office. "But I'd like to hear it from you, whatever you're comfortable sharing." Jasmine told her everything: the assault, the pregnancy, Richard's threats and offers, her fears about her job and education. "First, I want you to know that what happened was not your fault," Vanessa said firmly. "No matter what choice you make going forward." "What choice do I have?" Jasmine asked. "He's winning no matter what I do." "That's how men like Richard operate. They make you feel powerless." Vanessa leaned forward. "But you have more power than you realize." "What do you mean?" "You're carrying his child. You have evidence of his paternity. You know things about him and his family that they want to keep hidden." "But they have money and connections," Jasmine said. "I have nothing." "You have the truth," Vanessa replied. "And you have your voice." "Is that enough?" That depends on how you use it. Vanessa took a deep breath. Jasmine, whatever you decide needs to be for yourself and your baby, not based on fear or shame. Those are tools Richard is using to control you. I'm scared of what he might do, Jasmine admitted. That's understandable, but ask yourself, are you more scared of what he might do or of living your whole life knowing you let him get away with this? The question followed Jasmine back to the Thompson residence, where wedding preparations had reached a fever pitch. As she organized the seating chart in the dining room, she noticed something she hadn't paid attention to before. The guest list included 3 Supreme Court justices, 2 senators, and dozens of journalists. The governor confirmed yesterday, Mrs. Thompson said, walking past with her phone, and the White House is sending a representative. This wedding is becoming the social event of the year. That night, Jasmine received a text with the results of the DNA test. 99.9% probability that Richard Bennett was the father of her baby. She saved the results and immediately began researching a second testing facility. 1 test could be questioned, 2 would be harder to dismiss. As she looked at the wedding seating chart again, a plan began forming in her mind. Richard had been right about one thing: she was powerless in their private battle. But perhaps in front of 500 of New York's most influential people, the truth would have more weight. Her phone buzzed with a message from the DNA testing facility. Your printed results are ready for pickup tomorrow. Jasmine placed her hand on her growing belly. I think I know what we need to do, she whispered to her baby. The morning after making her decision, Jasmine woke up with renewed purpose. Her plan was still forming, but she knew exactly where to start. She dressed carefully, selecting a loose sweater that somewhat disguised her growing belly, and headed to the Brooklyn DNA testing facility to collect her results. Here you are, Ms. Williams, the receptionist said, handing her a sealed envelope. As I mentioned, without the father's consent, these results can't be used in court. I understand, Jasmine replied, carefully placing the envelope in her bag. Can you recommend another reputable testing facility? I'd like to get a second opinion. The receptionist seemed surprised but provided the name of a lab in Queens. They're very reliable, medical-grade testing. Jasmine thanked her and immediately headed to the second facility. This time she paid extra for their most comprehensive testing and fastest turnaround. We can have results in 3 days with our rush service, the technician explained. It costs an additional $100. That's fine, Jasmine said, handing over more of her carefully saved money. Every dollar spent was one less for her future, but she needed these results to be beyond question. Her next stop was a small credit union across town, far from any banks the Thompsons or Bennetts might use. I'd like to open a new account, she told the bank officer, a friendly woman named Patricia. Certainly. Do you have identification and an initial deposit? Jasmine provided her ID and $500, nearly half of her emergency fund. I need this account to be completely separate from any other accounts I have. Is that possible? Patricia looked at her curiously but nodded. This will be an entirely separate account. Only you will have access to it. With her new bank card securely in her wallet, Jasmine headed to City College to meet with Dr. Martinez. She found her professor in her office grading papers. Jasmine, come in, Dr. Martinez said warmly. How are you feeling? Better, actually, Jasmine replied, sitting down. I've made some decisions about my situation. I'm glad to hear that. Have you decided what to do about the course you're failing? That's partly why I'm here. I want to pre-register for next semester's classes, regardless of what happens with this semester. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Does this have something to do with the baby's father? Yes, Jasmine admitted. Things might become complicated. Soon. I need to make sure my education is secure. Dr. Martinez studied her for a moment, then nodded. Let's see what we can do. Together, they completed the paperwork to pre-register Jasmine for the next semester's nursing courses. with Dr. Martinez providing a special recommendation that would hold Jasmine's spot regardless of her current semester's grades. "Whatever you're planning, Jasmine, be careful," Dr. Martinez said as they finished. "And know that you have support here." "Thank you," Jasmine said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. No matter what happened at the wedding, her education path remained open. That afternoon, Jasmine met with Sophia at the Legal Advocacy Center. Taylor's cousin had agreed to see her on short notice. "I've been thinking about your situation," Sophia said, closing her office door for privacy. "Have you made any decisions?" "I'm not taking Richard's money," Jasmine said firmly, "and I'm not staying silent." Sophia nodded. "I thought you might say that. What are you planning?" Jasmine explained her idea, revealing Richard's actions and her pregnancy at the wedding itself in front of hundreds of witnesses. "That's bold," Sophia said when Jasmine finished, "and risky. The Bennetts will react swiftly and aggressively." "I know. That's why I need to understand my legal rights. What can they do to me?" For the next hour, Sophia outlined potential scenarios and helped Jasmine prepare documentation that would protect her in various situations. They discussed potential defamation claims, restraining orders, and emergency custody proceedings. "The DNA tests are crucial," Sophia emphasized. "Make copies. Keep them in multiple safe locations." "I'm getting a second test to confirm the first," Jasmine explained. "Smart. And what about afterward? Do you have somewhere safe to go?" "I'm working on that." When Jasmine returned to the Thompson residence that evening, she was calm and focused. Mrs. Thompson noticed the change immediately. "You seem better today, Jasmine. Less distracted." "Yes, ma'am. I'm feeling much better." "Excellent. We need you at your best these next 3 weeks. The wedding planning is entering its final phase." Jasmine nodded. "I'll make sure everything is perfect." Over the next few days, Jasmine was the model employee, efficient, accommodating, and always pleasant. She completed tasks before being asked, anticipated the family's needs, and maintained a serene demeanor that both pleased and slightly confused the Thompsons. "Whatever was wrong with you before, I'm glad it's fixed," Emily commented as Jasmine helped her organize wedding gifts. "You're actually being helpful for once." "I want your wedding to be perfect, Miss Emily," Jasmine replied with a smile. Emily looked surprised by her enthusiasm. "Well, good. Have you decided what song you'll sing at the reception?" "Actually, I was thinking I could prepare something special, something memorable." Emily clapped her hands in delight. "Perfect. I want our wedding to stand out from all the others this season." "It certainly will," Jasmine assured her. Richard visited the Thompson residence frequently in the weeks before the wedding. Each time he watched Jasmine with growing suspicion, unsettled by her calm demeanor and the way she no longer avoided his gaze. "You never responded to my offer," he said, cornering her in the kitchen during one visit. "I've been busy with wedding preparations," Jasmine replied evenly. $25,000 is my final offer," Richard insisted. "After the wedding, the offer expires." "I understand." Richard studied her face, frustrated by her lack of fear. "What are you planning, Jasmine?" She smiled slightly. "Just focusing on making Emily's wedding perfect, like everyone else." Her calmness clearly unnerved him. "Don't do anything stupid," he warned before rejoining the others. That evening, Jasmine met Taylor at her apartment. Her friend had agreed to help with the technical aspects of Jasmine's plan. "Are you sure about this?" Taylor asked as she showed Jasmine how to connect her phone to audio systems like those that would be at the plaza. "I've never been more sure of anything," Jasmine replied, practicing the connection again. "The Bennetts are powerful people," Taylor warned. "They won't just let this go." "I know, but I can't let this go either." Taylor squeezed her hand. "Then we'll make sure it works perfectly. I'll be bartending at the reception, so I'll be there if you need backup." The next day, Marcus met Jasmine in the back garden of the Thompson building during his break. "I got you this," he said, handing her a small phone. "It's a prepaid. No contract, no connection to your name. Keep it with you at all times after the wedding." "Thank you," Jasmine said, tucking the phone into her pocket. "I also talked to my cousin in Chicago. He has an extra room you can stay in if you need to leave New York for a while." Jasmine looked at him in surprise. "You think I'll need to leave the city?" "I think you should have options," Marcus replied. "People like the Bennetts have long memories and longer reach." That night, Jasmine had a nightmare about standing at the wedding, opening her mouth to speak, but no sound coming out. She woke up in a cold sweat, her heart racing. Despite her fear, her resolve remained firm. The next morning, she wrote a long letter to her mother explaining everything: the assault, the pregnancy, and what she planned to do at the wedding. She sealed it in an envelope to be mailed the day of the wedding. With just 7 days until the ceremony, Jasmine visited her doctor to check on her baby's health. She was 18 weeks pregnant now, her belly impossible to hide without very loose clothing. "Everything looks healthy," the doctor assured her after the ultrasound. "Would you like to know the gender?" "Not yet," Jasmine replied, watching the image of her baby on the screen. "But could I have a video of the ultrasound? And extra copies of the images?" "Of course." That night, alone in her room, Jasmine downloaded the ultrasound video to her phone and practiced what she would say at the wedding. She stood before her small mirror, rehearsing her words again and again until they flowed naturally, without hesitation or fear. "My name is Jasmine Williams," she practiced. "I am 18 weeks pregnant with Richard Bennett's child. This pregnancy is the result of an assault that occurred in this apartment while Emily was in Paris." She placed her hand on her growing belly, feeling a strong kick in response. "Tomorrow," she whispered to her unborn child, "we both stop being invisible." The day before her planned revelation dawned bright and chaotic. Jasmine woke to the sound of the doorbell ringing repeatedly and Mrs. Thompson calling her name. "Jasmine, get the door! The florist is early!" Quickly throwing on her uniform, Jasmine hurried to the front door. The apartment was already in disarray, with garment bags draped over furniture and half-packed suitcases blocking hallways. "Good morning," she greeted the florist, a harried-looking woman juggling sample centerpieces. "Please come in. Mrs. Thompson is in the dining room." Over the next 3 hours, a parade of wedding vendors arrived. The caterer needed final approval on menu changes, the photographer wanted to discuss lighting, and a courier delivered Emily's diamond hair clips that had been specially designed for the occasion. Through it all, Jasmine moved with quiet efficiency, serving coffee, answering the door, and mediating disputes between vendors while Mrs. Thompson grew increasingly frantic. "Everything must be perfect," Mrs. Thompson repeated for the 10th time that morning. "The governor is attending. The White House is sending a representative." During a rare 5-minute break, Jasmine slipped into her room and carefully placed her second DNA test results, which had arrived the previous day confirming Richard's paternity, into a waterproof folder. She added the ultrasound images and video files, a copy of her medical records confirming her pregnancy, and the documentation Sophia had helped her prepare. Everything went into a small bag hidden beneath her bed. "Jasmine!" Emily's voice echoed through the apartment. "Where are my blue shoes? The ones I'm wearing to the rehearsal dinner?" "Coming, Miss Emily." At 2 in the afternoon, the Thompson family departed for the Plaza Hotel for the wedding rehearsal, with Jasmine following in a separate car carrying Emily's overnight bag and emergency wedding supplies. The Plaza's grand ballroom had been transformed into a floral wonderland. White roses and peonies cascaded from ceiling installations, and crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables set with fine china and silver. "The florist outdid herself," Mrs. Thompson said, surveying the scene with satisfaction. While the wedding planner gathered the family and bridal party for rehearsal instructions, Jasmine quietly explored the venue. She located all emergency exits, noting which doors led to service corridors and which opened to public areas. She identified security personnel stationed discreetly around the ballroom and at main entrances. Most importantly, She found the audio-visual control booth where technicians were setting up for tomorrow's events. "Excuse me," she said, approaching a young technician adjusting a speaker. Miss Emily was wondering if the sound system allows for connecting personal devices. She has a special song she might want to play. "Sure," the technician replied, not really looking at her. "The main system has Bluetooth capability. The password is Plaza1234, or she can give me her phone directly during the reception." "Thank you," Jasmine said, immediately testing the connection with her phone. The system recognized her device instantly. She then studied the massive display screens positioned around the ballroom, currently showing test patterns and sample photos of Emily and Richard. Tomorrow, these screens would display Jasmine's ultrasound images and evidence. As Jasmine was checking the positioning of the head table, a commotion at the entrance announced the arrival of Richard's parents. William Bennett was a tall, imposing man with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to authority. Beside him, Catherine Bennett was elegantly dressed in a designer suit, her blonde hair perfectly styled. "William, Catherine," Mrs. Thompson greeted them effusively. "Everything is coming together beautifully." William Bennett nodded curtly. "I should hope so, given what we're spending." Richard broke away from the wedding planner to greet his parents, kissing his mother's cheek. "Mother, Father, I'm glad you made it. How was the flight from Boston?" "Your father complained the entire time," Catherine said with a tight smile, "but we're here now." As the families gathered for the rehearsal, Jasmine faded into the background, observing. William Bennett's eyes passed over her without seeing her, but Catherine's gaze lingered for a moment, noting the slight swell of Jasmine's belly visible beneath her loose uniform. After the rehearsal, the families and wedding party departed for the rehearsal dinner at an exclusive restaurant nearby. Jasmine remained behind to organize Emily's items for the morning, then took a taxi to the restaurant to serve drinks during the pre-dinner reception. The dinner was a display of wealth and connection. Toasts celebrated Richard's bright future in politics, his father's legacy as a judge, and the perfect union of two powerful families. Jasmine moved silently between tables, refilling water glasses and wine, collecting dishes. She noticed Richard watching her throughout the evening, his expression growing increasingly tense. As guests mingled after dinner, Richard managed to corner Jasmine in a service hallway. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low. "Now." Jasmine followed him to a small alcove away from the other guests. Richard looked unusually disheveled, his perfect composure slipping. $50,000, he said without preamble. "That's my final offer. $50,000 if you terminate the pregnancy and leave New York. I'll have the money transferred tomorrow morning before the ceremony." Jasmine looked at him calmly. "Why are you raising your offer again, Richard?" "I saw you checking out the venue, speaking to the technicians." His eyes narrowed. "What are you planning?" "I'm just doing my job, making sure everything is perfect for Emily's special day." Richard's face flushed with anger. "Don't play games with me. Take the money. $50,000 could change your life." "My life has already changed," Jasmine replied, resting a hand on her belly. For a moment, Richard's mask slipped completely, revealing raw fear. "If you do anything to disrupt this wedding, I will destroy you. Do you understand? My father has judges and politicians in his pocket. My family controls real estate throughout the Northeast. We will make sure you never work again, anywhere." Jasmine simply walked away, leaving him standing alone in the alcove. Back at the Thompson residence, Emily insisted Jasmine help her with a final fitting of her wedding dress, a $60,000 custom creation with a 14-foot train and thousands of hand-sewn crystals. "I need to make sure it still fits perfectly," Emily explained, standing in her bedroom in her underwear. "I've been so stressed I've barely eaten." As Jasmine carefully helped Emily into the gown, she was struck by how young and vulnerable Emily suddenly looked, stripped of her usual confidence. "Are you excited for tomorrow?" Jasmine asked softly. Emily didn't answer immediately. "I should be, right?" she finally said in a small voice. "It's what everyone expects. The perfect wedding, the perfect marriage." "Is it what you want?" Emily laughed, but the sound lacked humor. "What I want doesn't matter much in my family. This marriage unites two powerful families. Richard will run for office someday. I'll be the perfect political wife." For a brief moment, Jasmine considered warning Emily about Richard's true nature, but Emily continued before she could decide. "Besides, it's too late now. The governor is coming. There's a White House representative. We've spent over $2 million. Emily straightened her shoulders, her moment of vulnerability passing. "Make sure you're not late tomorrow. And remember you're singing during dessert." Before bed, Jasmine made several important phone calls. First to her mother in Baltimore. "How are you, sweetheart?" her mother asked. "Ready for the big wedding tomorrow?" "I'm okay, Mom. I just wanted to hear your voice. I love you." "I love you too. Is everything all right?" "Everything will be fine. I'll call you tomorrow." Next, she called her brother to check on him and remind him to help their mother with the weekend chores. Then Taylor, confirming she would be working the bar at the reception. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Taylor asked. "I'm sure. I'll see you tomorrow." She called Marcus next. "I've got everything ready," he told her. "My cousin in Chicago is expecting you whenever you need. Are you scared?" "Yes," Jasmine admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." Finally, she called Dr. Martinez. "I may need to leave town suddenly after tomorrow," Jasmine explained. "If I do, can you help make sure my academic standing remains secure?" "Of course," Dr. Martinez promised. "Take care of yourself first. Your education will be waiting for you when you're ready." After her calls, Jasmine packed her bag for tomorrow. Both DNA test results in sealed envelopes, ultrasound images, the prepaid phone from Marcus, a change of clothes, her important documents, and the small amount of cash she had saved. As she lay in bed, sleep eluded her. She mentally rehearsed what she would say tomorrow, visualizing herself standing before 500 of New York's elite, speaking her truth. Her hand rested on her belly, feeling the occasional movement of her baby. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I promise I'll protect you," she whispered. Across town, unbeknownst to Jasmine, Richard Bennett was making frantic phone calls to friends in high places, attempting to prepare contingency plans for a situation he could feel spiraling beyond his control. The morning of the wedding arrived with a flurry of activity. Jasmine woke at 4:30, her small bag packed and hidden under her uniform jacket. Today, everything would change. The Thompson residence was already bustling when she emerged from her room. Mrs. Thompson was directing staff who had arrived early to help with preparations. "Jasmine? There you are. Emily needs you in her room immediately. She's having a dress crisis." In Emily's bedroom, the bride-to-be sat in her silk robe, surrounded by bridesmaids drinking champagne. Despite the early hour, Emily held a half-empty glass. "My dress looks different today," Emily complained when she saw Jasmine. "It's not hanging right." Jasmine examined the $60,000 gown hanging on the closet door. "It looks fine, Miss Emily. Let me steam it again to make sure." While Jasmine prepared the steamer, Emily's bridesmaids gossiped about guests and other society weddings. "Did you hear the governor is bringing his new girlfriend?" one whispered. "And 3 Supreme Court justices confirmed," another added. "This is definitely the wedding of the season." Emily gulped more champagne. Richard's father made sure all the right people would attend. He's already planning Richard's political future. As Jasmine carefully steamed the delicate fabric, she felt strangely calm. Her plan was set. Her evidence was secure in her bag. There was no turning back now. "Your hair looks terrible," Emily said suddenly, looking at Jasmine. "Can't you do something with it for today? You'll be in the background of photos." "I'll fix it before we leave, Miss Emily. And that uniform is still too tight. Everyone can see you've gained weight." Emily sighed dramatically. Just try to stay out of the main photographs." By 9:30, Emily was dressed and ready for the car to the plaza. Mrs. Thompson fussed over every detail while Mr. Thompson checked his watch repeatedly. "The photographers want to start at 10, he reminded everyone. "We're on a schedule." Jasmine gathered her bag and Emily's emergency kit of makeup, hairpins, and fashion tape. As she followed the family to the elevator, she took one last look at the apartment that had been her home for 3 years. At the Plaza Hotel, wedding guests were already arriving despite the 11 o'clock ceremony start time. Security guards checked invitations at every entrance and hotel staff directed people to the ceremony location. The bridal suite was a flurry of activity. Hairstylists, makeup artists, and bridesmaids crowded the space while Emily sat in the center, alternating between excitement and panic. "Jasmine, help me with these hair clips," Emily demanded. "The stylist isn't doing them right." As Jasmine pinned the diamond clips into Emily's elaborate updo, she caught sight of her own reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at her seemed different somehow, more determined, less afraid. "Richard better appreciate all this," Emily muttered, wincing as Jasmine secured another clip. "He's been acting strange all week. Last night he kept making phone calls instead of spending time with me." "I'm sure he's just nervous," one bridesmaid offered. "Richard Bennett doesn't get nervous," Emily said, reaching for more champagne. "He gets whatever he wants." The ceremony began precisely at 11 o'clock. 500 guests watched as Emily glided down the aisle on her father's arm toward Richard, who stood stiffly at the altar. His parents sat in the front row, William Bennett's face impassive, Catherine Bennett dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Jasmine stood at the back of the ballroom, watching the ceremony unfold. The vows, the rings, the kiss, all perfect according to plan. No one noticed how Richard's eyes darted nervously around the room during quiet moments, or how his hands trembled slightly when placing the ring on Emily's finger. After the ceremony, guests moved to the reception area for cocktails while the ballroom was transformed for the dinner. Jasmine helped Emily change into her reception dress, a second designer gown that cost $20,000. "Are you ready to sing later?" Emily asked, admiring herself in the mirror. "Everything is prepared," Jasmine replied truthfully. The reception began with the entrance of the wedding party. Applause greeted Emily and Richard as they took their seats at the head table. Waiters served expensive champagne while the orchestra played quietly in the background. Mr. Thompson gave the first toast, praising Richard's character and future prospects. "Richard Bennett represents the best of American ambition. Mark my words, we'll see great things from him in the future." Jasmine watched from near the kitchen doors, waiting. She saw Taylor working at the bar, giving her an encouraging nod. Marcus was positioned by a side entrance in his security uniform, alert and ready. After the main course was served and cleared, Emily stood up and tapped her glass with a spoon. The room quieted. "Before dessert is served, I have a special surprise," she announced, her words slightly slurred from champagne. "Many of you don't notice the staff at events like this. They're like furniture, always there but never seen." She gestured toward Jasmine. "But my maid Jasmine has a hidden talent. She has the voice of an angel from her church choir days. Let's have some real entertainment." The crowd, fueled by alcohol and entitlement, began to clap. "Sing! Sing! Sing!" they chanted. Mr. Thompson nodded at Jasmine, signaling that she should comply. Richard sat frozen, his face pale, eyes fixed on his plate. Jasmine walked slowly to the small stage where the orchestra had paused. Her heart pounded, but her steps were steady. She took the microphone with trembling hands. "Thank you, Miss Emily," she said, her voice surprisingly clear. "I do have something to share with you all today." Instead of singing, Jasmine removed her phone from her pocket and connected it to the sound system, just as she had practiced with Taylor. The room fell silent with anticipation. She pressed play. The powerful speakers filled the ballroom with the unmistakable whooshing sound of a fetal heartbeat, strong, rapid, alive. Simultaneously, Jasmine tapped another button on her phone. The massive display screens around the venue, previously showing a montage of Emily and Richard's relationship, now showed a clear ultrasound image with today's date and Jasmine's name clearly visible. "This is Richard Bennett's child," Jasmine announced, her voice growing stronger. "I am 18 weeks pregnant, and Richard knows it. He assaulted me in the Thompson home while Emily was in Paris." The ballroom erupted in chaos. Emily screamed and lunged toward Richard, her father restraining her while her mother collapsed into a chair. Guests gasped and began recording with their phones despite the no social media policy. Richard jumped to his feet. "She's lying, this is absurd, security, remove her immediately." Jasmine stood her ground as security guards approached uncertainly. "I have proof," she said, pulling out the sealed envelopes from her bag. "DNA test results from 2 separate laboratories using a sample from Richard's hairbrush. Both confirm with 99.9% certainty that Richard Bennett is the father of my baby." William Bennett pushed through the crowd and grabbed the envelopes from Jasmine's hand. He tore one open, his face turning ashen as he read the results. "I didn't want this," Jasmine continued as security guards reached the stage. "I just wanted to do my job, get my education, and be treated with basic human dignity." Richard's face contorted with rage. "You're fired. You're nothing. No one will believe you over me." As security guards took Jasmine's arms to escort her away, Marcus stepped forward from his post by the door. "I witnessed Richard threatening Jasmine last week," he announced loudly, "and I'm not the only staff member who knows the truth." Several waiters and a bartender nodded in agreement. Taylor stepped forward as well. "I've seen the bruises she tried to hide after he visited the Thompson home." The security guards released Jasmine, unsure who they should be restraining in this unprecedented situation. Emily, tears streaming down her face, turned to Richard. "Is it true? Did you assault our maid while I was in Paris?" "Of course not," Richard sputtered, but his eyes darted around the room, looking for escape. "She's obviously mentally unstable. Probably slept with the doorman and is trying to blame me." Catherine Bennett approached her son slowly. "Richard," she said, her voice barely audible, "is this like what happened at Harvard, the girl who suddenly transferred?" A deadly silence fell over the nearest tables as guests strained to hear this new revelation. William Bennett grabbed his son's arm. "Not another word," he hissed. "We're leaving. Now." As the Bennett family tried to exit discreetly, journalists who had been invited as guests began asking questions. Phones recorded everything despite security's attempts to stop them. Mrs. Thompson, recovered from her initial shock, approached Jasmine with cold fury. "How dare you ruin my daughter's wedding? You're fired. Get out of this hotel immediately." Mr. Thompson, looking stunned, stood beside his wife. "Did Richard really?" he began to ask, but Mrs. Thompson cut him off. "Don't be ridiculous, Robert. She's clearly lying for money or attention." Jasmine gathered her bag calmly. "I understand I'm fired, Mrs. Thompson. I expected nothing less, but I'm not lying." As Jasmine walked toward the exit, several female guests formed a protective circle around her, shielding her from security guards and angry relatives of the wedding party. "My card," one woman whispered, pressing it into Jasmine's hand. "I'm an attorney. Call me tomorrow." "My brother runs a women's shelter," another added. "You'll have a safe place to stay." Taylor appeared at Jasmine's side. "My car is out back. Sophia is waiting to take you somewhere safe." Outside the plaza, reporters had already gathered, alerted by texts from guests inside. Jasmine kept her head down as Taylor and Marcus guided her through a service entrance to avoid the media frenzy. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked as they reached Taylor's car. Jasmine placed a hand on her belly, feeling her baby move. "Yes," she said. "For the first time in months, I think I really am." Taylor drove away from the Plaza Hotel as reporters chased after the car with cameras and microphones. Jasmine sank into the back seat, exhaustion suddenly washing over her. "We did it," Taylor said, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. I can't believe we actually did it. Where are we going? Jasmine asked, realizing she hadn't planned this part thoroughly. Dr. Martinez is waiting at her apartment, Sophia explained from the front passenger seat. She offered her guest room until we figure out next steps. Jasmine nodded, feeling her phone vibrate constantly in her pocket. She pulled it out to find 27 missed calls and numerous text messages, some from the Thompsons, several from unknown numbers, and even one from Richard himself. Don't answer any of those, Sophia advised, noticing Jasmine looking at her phone. Not until we've had time to assess the situation. Across town, Dr. Martinez welcomed Jasmine with a warm hug and a cup of tea. Her apartment was modest but comfortable, with bookshelves lining the walls and a small guest room already prepared with fresh sheets. You were incredibly brave today, Dr. Martinez said as they sat in her living room. How are you feeling? Numb, Jasmine admitted. Everything happened so fast. It's the adrenaline wearing off, Dr. Martinez explained. Rest now. Tomorrow will be time enough to deal with what comes next. But what comes next arrived sooner than expected. By 8 o'clock that evening, clips from the wedding were already appearing on social media, despite the event's strict no-recording policy. Hashtags like Plaza Wedding Scandal and La Bennett Baby were trending nationally. This is getting bigger than I expected, Sophia said, scrolling through her phone. The Bennett family's crisis management team is already making statements. What are they saying? Jasmine asked nervously. The usual damage control. They're calling it a misunderstanding and suggesting you were a disgruntled employee looking for money. Jasmine's phone rang again, this time showing Taylor's number. You need to turn on the news, Taylor said when Jasmine answered. They're covering the story on every channel. Dr. Martinez turned on her television, and they watched in disbelief as a local news anchor reported, "Breaking news tonight as the wedding of the season turns into New York's biggest scandal." Emily Thompson, daughter of investment banker Robert Thompson and Richard Bennett, heir to the Bennett real estate empire, were set to marry today at the Plaza Hotel when a shocking accusation disrupted the ceremony. A household employee claimed Bennett had assaulted her, resulting in a pregnancy now in its second trimester. The Bennett family has declined official comment, but sources close to the family deny all allegations. We'll continue to follow this developing story. This is surreal, Jasmine whispered. The truth has a way of demanding attention, Dr. Martinez replied. At 10:15 that night, Sophia's phone rang. After a brief conversation, she turned to Jasmine with raised eyebrows. That was Catherine Bennett's personal assistant. Mrs. Bennett wants to meet with you tomorrow morning. Richard's mother? Why would I meet with her? Jasmine asked, alarmed. She didn't say, but this could be important. They might be ready to negotiate. Or threaten, Taylor added. I'll go with you as your legal representative, Sophia offered. They won't try anything with a witness present. The next morning, while Jasmine tried to eat breakfast despite her nerves, her prepaid phone from Marcus rang. Are you safe? He asked immediately. Yes, I'm with friends. Thank you for standing up for me yesterday. Of course. Marcus paused. I wanted to warn you. Mr. Thompson came to the building this morning looking for you. He seemed conflicted. Not angry exactly, but agitated. What did he want? He didn't say. But he left a letter for you with the doorman. I have it here. Can you read it to me? Marcus opened the envelope. It says, Jasmine, if what you said is true, I owe you an apology. This doesn't excuse what happened in our home. Please call me when you're ready to talk. Robert Thompson. Jasmine sat in stunned silence. Of all the reactions she had anticipated, sympathy from Mr. Thompson wasn't one of them. At 11 o'clock, Jasmine and Sophia arrived at the neutral location Catherine Bennett had suggested. A private room at an upscale Manhattan restaurant that was closed to the public until dinner service. Catherine Bennett waited alone, looking elegant but tired. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept. "Thank you for coming," she said formally as they sat down. "I appreciate your discretion." "Why did you want to meet?" Sophia asked directly. Catherine studied Jasmine for a long moment. "I need to know something first. Are you absolutely certain the child is Richard's?" "Yes," Jasmine replied firmly. "2 separate DNA tests confirmed it. And the incident was not consensual?" "It was assault," Jasmine stated clearly. "I said no repeatedly." Catherine closed her eyes briefly, pain crossing her face. "I was afraid of that." She opened her handbag and removed a business card. "This is our family attorney. He will be contacting you later today with a settlement offer." "Mrs. Bennet," Sophia interjected, "Jasmine hasn't decided if she's pursuing legal action yet." "This isn't about legal action," Catherine said quietly. "This is about my son's behavior, which I have suspected for some time." "What do you mean?" Jasmine asked. Catherine's composed facade cracked slightly. "There was an incident at Harvard, a female student who suddenly transferred mid-semester. There were rumors, but William made it all go away." She looked directly at Jasmine, her eyes watery. "I should have done something then. Perhaps you wouldn't be sitting here now if I had." The unexpected admission hung in the air between them. "The settlement will be generous," Catherine continued, regaining her composure. "Enough for your education, your child's future, and a fresh start somewhere new. All we ask is your discretion." "You mean my silence," Jasmine clarified. "Yes, complete confidentiality. No interviews, no social media, no contact with the press." As Jasmine and Sophia left the restaurant, Sophia looked troubled. "That was not what I expected." "Me neither," Jasmine admitted. She seemed almost resigned, like she knew this day would come eventually. By late afternoon, the media frenzy had intensified. Reporters had discovered Jasmine's identity and were camped outside her mother's home in Baltimore and at City College asking questions about her. Meanwhile, the Bennet family attorney called with the official settlement offer, $500,000 in exchange for a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. The settlement would cover Jasmine's medical expenses, education, and provide for her child's future. "It's a substantial offer," Sophia acknowledged as they discussed it at Dr. Martinez's apartment. "But once you sign an NDA, you can never speak publicly about what happened." "What about criminal charges?" Taylor asked. "Shouldn't Richard face consequences?" Sophia sighed. "Criminal cases are difficult to prove, especially with no physical evidence from the time of the assault. It would be Jasmine's word against his, and these cases take an enormous emotional toll." "The money would secure my baby's future," Jasmine said softly, "and my education." 3 days after the wedding, Emily Thompson checked into an exclusive rehabilitation facility in Switzerland reportedly for emotional trauma and substance abuse. Mrs. Thompson resigned from 3 prestigious charity boards as whispers and speculation made her position untenable. Mr. Thompson called Jasmine directly on her prepaid phone. "I believe you," he said simply. "I've known Richard his entire life, but I believe you. Emily told me she always felt something was off about him, but we all ignored the signs because of who his family is." "Thank you for saying that," Jasmine replied, surprised by his candor. "What he did was unforgivable, and it happened in my home. I feel responsible." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "If you need a reference for future employment, please don't hesitate to ask." 1 week after the wedding, social media remained ablaze with the scandal. Richard issued a public statement denying Jasmine's claims, calling them fabrications from a disgruntled employee seeking financial gain. Despite his denial, his family removed him from the Bennet real estate website, and rumors circulated that he had been sent to Arizona to work for a distant cousin. The Bennet family's settlement offer increased to $1 million as public opinion turned against them. Their attorneys pressed for a quick resolution before more damage could be done to the family name. Sitting in Dr. Martinez's living room, Surrounded by Sophia's legal documents, Taylor's supportive presence, and Marcus's steady encouragement during his visits, Jasmine weighed her options. The money would transform her life and her child's future. But was her silence worth the price they were offering? As she reviewed the settlement papers, Jasmine's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. When she answered cautiously, a woman's voice spoke. "Jasmine? This is Catherine Bennett again. I need to speak with you, woman to woman. There are things about Richard you should know before you make your decision." "I'll meet with you," Jasmine told Catherine Bennett, "but I want Sophia with me." The next day they met at a small tea room in a quiet part of Manhattan. Catherine looked even more tired than before, her normally perfect appearance slightly disheveled. "Thank you for coming," Catherine said. "What I'm about to tell you stays between us regardless of what decision you make about the settlement." Sophia nodded. "We understand confidentiality." Catherine took a deep breath. "Richard has done this before. 3 times that I know of. The first was at boarding school when he was 17. We paid the girl's family and they moved to California. The second was at Harvard, as I mentioned. The third was an intern at Bennett Real Estate 2 years ago." Jasmine felt sick. "And you covered it up each time?" "William did," Catherine admitted, her voice breaking. "He always protected Richard, made excuses. Boys will be boys. The girls were asking for it. They just wanted money." She looked down at her trembling hands. "I let it happen. I convinced myself they were lying or exaggerating." "Why are you telling me this now?" Jasmine asked. "Because when I saw you at the wedding, standing there despite everything, I realized I've been complicit in creating a monster." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "He won't stop unless someone stops him." "Then help me press charges," Jasmine urged. Catherine shook her head. "William would destroy you. He's already hired investigators to dig into your past. He has judges in his pocket, police chiefs, district attorneys." She reached across the table. "Take the settlement. Start a new life somewhere else. Keep your baby safe." "So, I should just let Richard get away with it? Again?" "He's not getting away with it," Catherine said firmly. "William has removed him from the family business. His political future is over. The Bennett name is tarnished for the first time in generations." "That's not justice," Sophia interjected. "No, it's not," Catherine agreed. "But it might be the only consequences he'll ever face." She looked directly at Jasmine. "The settlement offer is now $1.5 million. William doesn't know I'm here. He thinks I'm trying to salvage our social calendar." 3 months later, Jasmine sat at a small desk in her new apartment in Chicago, reading her acceptance letter to Northwestern University's accelerated nursing program. Outside, snow fell gently on the quiet street, so different from the constant noise of Manhattan. The settlement from the Bennett family had been finalized at $1.5 million. After signing multiple non-disclosure agreements, Jasmine had received enough money to secure her education and her child's future. The agreement prevented her from discussing Richard's assault or the settlement itself, but left her free to speak about workplace conditions and power dynamics in general terms. Jasmine placed the acceptance letter on a corkboard already covered with important documents: her prenatal care schedule, her class registration forms, and a map of Chicago neighborhoods. Her hand rested on her rounded belly, now in her 7th month of pregnancy. Her phone rang with Taylor's familiar ringtone. "How's Chicago treating you?" Taylor asked when Jasmine answered. "It's quieter than New York. People actually say good morning on the street." "I miss you," Taylor said. "But the network is growing faster than I expected." Taylor had started a support organization for domestic workers facing abuse in wealthy households, inspired by Jasmine's experience. In just 3 months, over 50 women had reached out for help. "That's amazing, Taylor. Are you getting any support?" "Some of the women who approached you at the wedding turned out to be serious about helping. One is a grant writer, another runs a foundation. We're applying for nonprofit status next month." After they hung up, Jasmine checked her email to find a message from Dr. Martinez with her recommendation letter for an honors program at Northwestern. Despite everything, her education path remained open, supported by people who believed in her. A knock at the door revealed Marcus, bundled against the Chicago winter, holding a small gift bag. "You came," Jasmine said, surprised and pleased. "I promised I would." Marcus smiled, stomping snow from his boots. "My security company approved the transfer to their Chicago office. I start next week." "You're moving here?" "If that's okay, I'm not assuming anything," he added quickly. "I just thought your baby might need more people in her corner." Jasmine invited him in, touched by his consideration. They had talked almost daily since she left New York, their friendship gradually deepening into something more, though neither had rushed to define it. "How are the Thompsons?" Jasmine asked as they sat in her small living room, still dealing with the fallout. "Mr. Thompson seems genuinely remorseful. He's donated to Taylor's network. Mrs. Thompson is struggling with the social rejection. Their holiday party had half the usual guests." "And Emily?" "Still in Switzerland, from what I hear. The wedding gifts were all returned." Jasmine checked her social media rarely these days, but occasionally glimpsed updates about the aftermath. Emily had deleted all her accounts after the scandal. Mrs. Thompson had resigned from 3 charity boards amid whispers and speculation. The Thompson family had lost significant social standing despite their wealth. Richard Bennett had faced no criminal charges. Sophia had advised that such a case would be difficult to prove and emotionally devastating, but his father had removed him from the family business as promised. According to LinkedIn screenshots Taylor had sent, Richard now worked at his cousin's small development company in Arizona. His engagement to Connecticut Senator's daughter Amanda Pierce had been quietly called off. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked, watching Jasmine rub her back, sore from the pregnancy. "About speaking up?" "Never." "About taking the settlement instead of fighting in court?" She paused. "Sometimes. But Sophia and Catherine were right. The legal system wasn't built to deliver justice in cases like mine." "You change things anyway," Marcus said. "Taylor tells me women are coming forward with similar stories about powerful men. Some prominent families have instituted new policies for household staff protection." In her final trimester, Jasmine focused on preparing for both motherhood and her education. Her apartment slowly filled with baby items: a crib from her mother, books from Dr. Martinez, and a handmade mobile from Taylor. On a snowy March morning, after 26 hours of labor with Marcus and her mother by her side, Jasmine delivered a healthy baby girl she named Liberty. Looking into her daughter's face, Jasmine saw only possibility, not the circumstances of her conception. "She's perfect," her mother whispered, holding her first grandchild. "She is," Jasmine agreed, "and she'll grow up knowing her worth." As Jasmine recovered from childbirth, an unexpected email arrived from a healthcare conference organizer. They had heard about her background as a nursing student who had stood up to power and wanted her to speak about recognizing signs of abuse among vulnerable populations. "I don't understand," Jasmine told Sophia during a video call. "I didn't list the Thompson job on my Northwestern application. How did they connect me to that situation?" "The NDAs prevent you from discussing Richard or the settlement," Sophia explained. "But your identity was public before you signed anything. People know you stood up to a powerful family. That story belongs to you." Though she never planned to become a symbol for standing up to power, Jasmine found herself cautiously accepting speaking engagements that allowed her to help others while respecting the legal boundaries of her agreement. Her quiet strength had transformed her from victim to advocate. When Liberty was 6 months old, Jasmine began her first semester at Northwestern. The university provided childcare assistance for student parents, and Marcus often watched Liberty when his security job schedule allowed. Their relationship had evolved naturally, built on mutual respect and shared values. One evening, as Jasmine prepared for an exam while Liberty played on a blanket nearby, she received a text from Taylor with a news link. You won't believe this. 3 more women have come forward about Richard Bennett. The story revealed that despite the Bennett family's efforts to silence Jasmine, her actions had created ripples of accountability. Other women, emboldened by what happened at the plaza, had begun sharing similar experiences with Richard Bennett. Though they couldn't pursue criminal charges due to statutes of limitations, their collective voices were impossible to dismiss as isolated incidents. As Liberty fell asleep that night, Jasmine sat in the rocking chair beside the crib, watching her daughter's peaceful face. The journey from the Thompsons' maid to nursing student and mother had been unimaginably difficult, but sitting here now, Jasmine felt no regrets. The story of what happened at the plaza had spread throughout New York's elite circles despite the NDAs and settlement. It created accountability where there had been none before, forcing powerful families to recognize that wealth couldn't always buy silence. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. "Just got off work. Need anything before I come over?" She smiled and texted back, "Just you." In her modest but comfortable Chicago apartment, surrounded by textbooks, baby toys, and evidence of her new life, Jasmine felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. She had stood in her truth, protected her child, and reclaimed her future, not as someone defined by victimhood, but as a woman who had found her voice when it mattered most. Liberty stirred in her crib, and Jasmine gently stroked her daughter's cheek. "You will grow up in a world where speaking truth to power is your birthright," she whispered, "not a privilege reserved for those born into wealth and status." Outside, Chicago continued its evening rhythm, a new city full of possibilities for a young mother who had learned that sometimes the quietest voice can create the loudest change. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.